Alright, it's recording now.
Yes, I have seen the Halls of Undermountain, Bruenor, and I ventured therein our search for clues to the location of Gauntlegrim. We found nothing but folly and death. Drizzt Do Erden, Adventurer. More than 1,000 years ago, the wizard Halastair, Blackcloak, whirled from a distant land to the base of Mount Waterdeep, perhaps acceding to chance or Providence's whisper summons. Some say he hailed from the Cradle Lands, a nearly forgotten empire ages ago. The Cradle Lands spread humanity across Faerun, from what is now the plains of purple dust, a wasteland birthed out of a conflict with the gods. Others give Halastair less ancient origins, placing him among the early wizards of Nerithil, or from an exotic southern nation long since buried by sand and time. Whatever his origins, scholars recorded that Halastair brought with him 7 apprentices. With the 7 guarding his back, Halastair tapped into his power to summon beings from the other planes, to help him build a wizard's tower. Halastair ringed his tower with a great wall set with lesser towers, one for each of his apprentices. Then he created fields and farms for his apprentices and their servants to work. For a time it seemed a good life for the 7, but as the seasons wore on, they saw less and less of their enigmatic master Halastair, who continued to use fell creatures from distant lands for tunneling and other construction beneath his tower. And the wizard kept the nature of most of his underground dealings from the 7. Eventually, Halastair's exploration broke into Underhalls, a complex of tunnels and rooms dwarves built around a mithril mine beneath Mount Waterdeep. The architects of Underhalls, the Melarkian clan, had long ago been killed or dispersed, and oft-times warring Drugar and Drow had moved in Halastair. Began a crusade against both races, participating in wild hunts through the tunnels with extraplanar allies. The stubborn Drogar dug in until the mithril was largely mined out. Then they left the Drow to fight Halastair and his minions alone. The Mad Mage rounded up the remaining Dark Elves, trapping some of their souls for dark magic while twisting the bodies and enslaving the minds of others. Once he had wrung the Drow of all their usefulness, Halastair Blackcloak tunneled on, ever downward, indulging his inexplicable obsession with delving beneath the mountain. When the 7 had not seen Halastair for more than a year, some of his apprentices ventured into his tower to search for the great wizard. They found traps, monsters, and tantalizing hints about power beneath the earth. Individually, they plumbed the depths of the dungeons, encountering increasingly deadly traps and foes for their efforts. The Mad Mage's apprentices were rewarded with riches and magic. When the 7 were reduced to 5, Halastair appeared to his students and explained that he had built the tunnels to guard his experiments and treasures. He enlisted their aid to further secure his dungeons. What exactly happened after that is unclear. One apprentice is known to have fled, never to return. The others remained in Undermountain, some carving out whole levels of the labyrinth for themselves and their servants. Halastair continued to live beneath the mountain. Using his underground complex as a base, he traveled to other planes and distant lands, collecting strange creatures to bring into the Undermountain, to live as prisoners or guardians in his home. In time, Halastair sought out magic to extend his life, and some say these spells and items are what pushed the wizard beyond the realm of reason. Even though Halastair has always appeared obsessed and somewhat deranged, the mage's quest for immortality electrified his eccentricities and infused him with a pulsating air of madness. Halastair's remaining apprentices followed him on the path for a time. As they began dedicating more attention to their private obsessions, however, madness settled into their souls, and one by one the apprentices wandered off permanently to pursue their own muses. Given the centuries that have passed, it might be safe to believe the apprentices are dead, as their master, but reports of sightings and even conflicts with these dread wizards after Hallister's presumed death should not be discounted. During the years, Hallister quested on other planes, and sequestered himself in his tunnels. His lower fell into ruin, while Hallister was still spotted from time to time. An accursed place in the outside world. His home was considered an accursed place, so settlers in the area largely left the crumbling tower alone. But in time, the city now known as Waterdeep came to huddle against Mount Waterdeep, and it spread down the harbor. As the city sprawled outward, it surrounded the ruins of Hallister's home. Undermountain was known to these early settlers, and they often sent criminals into its depths as punishment. So it was for many years, until an adventurer named Durnan delved into the depths beneath the tower and returned laden with riches. To tell the tale, Durnan demolished the remnants of Hallister's above-ground abode and built an inn over the well he had used to descend into the underground labyrinth. He called his inn the Yawning Portal. Durnan's descendants work there to this day, serving patrons and inviting the brave and foolish alike to test their mettle in the Halls of Undermountain.
Awesome.